I told you we're talking about smoking in Kenya, and just before we get into that conversation, here's a story that will actually set the pace for our conversation this morning. And smoking cigarettes for anyone below the age of 21 could be criminal if in the country if a push by a non-government organization is adopted by Parliament. According to the Africa Center for Corrective and Preventative Action, tobacco misuse among the youth in the country has gone up, and it was time the government stepped up to stem it. The NGO says the goal is to eventually do away with smoking completely.
You'd have to be 21 years and above to access that cigarette smoke if the African Center for Corrective and Preventive Action succeeds in lobbying Parliament to raise the legal smoking age from 18 to 21 years. The lobby says the youth in Kenya, mostly those below 18 years, had made it a habit to smoke for leisure, not knowing they were forming a habit that would stick as they grow old and later suffer diseases associated with the smoke.
In the Republic of Kenya, every year we record about 8,000 plus deaths out of tobacco use-related sicknesses.
According to the non-governmental organization, the disclaimer on the cigarette boxes has done little to deter Kenyans from smoking, and it is now time for drastic action for the government.
This age of 18, we are asking ourselves, is it equal or equivalent to the age of maturity? Because the decision that people can make simply because they have clocked 18 years, it may not be at par with their future, the decision regarding their future.
Though the NGO wants the age limit raised to 21 years, they aver the goal is to completely do away with smoking in the country, giving examples of countries that have succeeded in doing so regionally and abroad.
In Kenya, the population you have, the smoking population you have of 3 million, ultimately 50% of that, that's about 1.5 million, will die ultimately out of smoking.
According to the lobby, they will start countrywide public participation barazas, whose main aim will be to collect views that will help in formulating a bill to be presented to Parliament through the relevant committee when the world will be celebrating World Tobacco Day. One of the targeted groups are stakeholders in the industry.
The engagement we are going to have, the tobacco industry will be one of them. We are going to have engagement with the county governments. We are going to have engagement with the association for parent associations in this country, all the stakeholders in the education sector.
Further, the NGO wants the government to ban the usage of mentholated tobacco products, which they say are being misused by young people. The attempt to increase regulation on tobacco will not be the first, as the government has already banned advertising and smoking in public. Kennedy Muredi, NTV.
John Macharia, that's the guy who wants us to raise the minimum age for smoking in Kenya from 18 to 21 years old. And he was there in the studio this morning. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, 2.5 million people. That's the number of people who actually use tobacco products. That's an estimate, of course, in Kenya. How much of a disaster is this?
Well, I think it's catastrophic because if you look at the statistics that we have, both locally and globally, and the harmful effects that come along cigarette smoking, you'd be worried. And both at individual, society and government level, there should be enough actions to tame this. Yes.
Do you think we're doing enough?
Apparently in Kenya, I would say no. Because regulations that we have in place, they may not be adequate, and they're not progressive, and they're not at par with the global trends.
One would argue that every year we see new taxes on cigarettes and alcohol, and we've seen the advertisement banned. Is that not enough?
Well, that's why actually we normally get it long, because the tax and other economic measures that are employed by the government to, in a way, to to ensure that the cigarettes are very expensive, that should be, it has not been aligned with the public health policy. Because what we should be asking ourselves, any government should first think about health. All the measures, including now the tax and other economic measures that you're talking, they should come as secondary. The primary role should be, how do we ensure that our population are safe and free from cigarette smoking?
Okay.
Yes.
Let me bring in Mr. Joel Gitali here, because Mr. Gitali, you've been doing this for a while with the organization, of course, as the Kenya Tobacco Control Alliance, trying to, of course, reduce the amount of tobacco that is consumed by in the country. And let me just start here. Do you think we're doing enough? Please unmute your mic. Please unmute your mic. We can't hear you. He's trying to unmute his mic, and it's gone off. Let me just continue with you. And we mentioned earlier, when I mentioned 2.5 million adults, I purposely omitted the fact that there are more than 20,000 children who actually access, tobacco products in this country.
Well, it has been said of that, but probably because our statistics may not be right. Mm-hmm. And given the magnitude of the old population that are smoking, that number is highly underestimated. Oh. It's highly underestimated. And I can take you back, because, what you're talking about, tobacco consumption, is a global concern. Actually, according to World Health Organization, they have categorically said it's an epidemic. Because in the whole world today, we are losing more than 8 million people annually because of smoking. And out of 8 million, over 1.2 million also are dying because of secondary smoke. They are not necessarily a smoker, but they're dying because of secondary smoke. Mm-hmm. So again,
you could be like myself. You don't smoke, but you end up dying of it.
Precisely. So again, we have about 1.2 billion people who smoke globally. And the saddening fact is that 80% of these 1.2 billion, according to World Health Organization, they are in low and medium income countries like Kenya. Meaning, even our population, if we try to appropriate the same, today we are saying we have close to 4 million smoking population in Kenya. Given our total population, which is close to 50 million, we are talking of close to 10% of population that is smoking. Out of 10, you have one smoker. Okay. And now you're talking about the old or the mature population. Okay. So it's a major concern, and I think there's global consensus that it should be treated as such. Okay. Yes.
Let me bring in Mr. Gitali if he's back with us. Mr. Gitali, just before we lost you, I was asking you if you think we are doing enough.
I hope you are getting me now.
Yes.
Are you getting me now?
Yes. Go on.
I was that we are doing much because, as Mr. Macharia has said, the number is far bigger than what we are being told, because about 4 years ago is when we were talking about 2.5 adults and we are talking about 1.5 youth. So this number is bigger than that. And we have Tobacco Control Act in place. We have the WHO FCTC, which is a convention for tobacco control, in place. Kenya was, in fact, one of the very first countries to sign and ratify WHO FCTC. So whatever we have done, we've done something, yes. But when you look at whatever laws we have and what is going on in the field, the implementation part of it, then you find that what we are doing is very, very, very minimal. Okay. We are supposed to do more. And there is no reason to we should not do that.
Okay. And when we say then 20,000 children are accessing tobacco products in this country, and you say then that the figures could be even underestimated, how much of a concern is that to you?
Yeah, it's of much concern because, one, tobacco is actually a gateway to harder drugs and every form of unsocial behavior that you can think about. So most of these people that you see are using very hard drugs like cocaine, hashish, and all those. They actually started by smoking. So this is a gateway. Somebody who starts smoking is capable of graduating into anything else. And if we are to prevent this, then we must look at what tobacco is doing to our society. And then apart from this, studies have clearly shown that nicotine normally destroys brains of children who are growing, the teenagers. So it has got a lot of health effects on the young people that are growing. So when we let these children to use nicotine products, to use tobacco and other, because nowadays they talk about very synthetic nicotine products, then you find that we are actually coming up with the people who have got mental issues. And at present, you see how much we are addressing the issue of mental health. So there is a bigger problem that we are sitting on unless we seriously implement the Tobacco Control Act and other related policies in this country. Okay. Because it will have a major impact on the population.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Of course, and Mr. Macharia would agree with me that we have the Tobacco Control Board, we have NACADA, and we have the act that is talked about, and we all wonder, why aren't they doing enough? What's the problem? Is it about the institutions or the laws that are not enough? And we will be talking about that after this very quick commercial break. At the other end of this break, we will be talking about what else can be done, including by the proposal to raise the minimum age for people who can legally smoke in the country from 18 to 21. Don't go anywhere.
Family is working together today. It is creating opportunities for a lifetime of happiness. The future is bright because you can always bank on family. Family Bank, with you for life.
Introducing Ushindi Cream Bar Soap. Ushindi Cream Bar Soap with Oxy Bright removes stains effortlessly and brightens colors. Available in 1 kilogram and 800 gram bars and 175 gram tablets. Also available in all your favorite variants. Ushindi, a quality product from Pwani Oils.
Kwitu is here to connect, support and empower Kenyan women. When you come to Kwitu, you have an opportunity to meet over 14,000 women.
Meet Lily Adhiambo Okech, the president of the largest community of Kenyan women in the diaspora.
Kwitu has over 30 chapters right now in the United States.
Find out how they support each other and their investments back home.
Over 300 women have invested with AMG. For us, it's important that we have something at home.
Wow, thank you for your time. How juicy.
Juicy.
After a year full of uncertainty, Kenya's leaders of tomorrow will soon sit for their KCPE and KCSE national exams. Join the Daily Nation team in wishing our candidates success in the Faulu na Daily Nation campaign. Log on to success.nation.co.ke from your phone and send the candidates details and a heartfelt personalized message for only 299 Kenya shillings, or include a photo of the candidate for only 999 Kenya shillings. The messages of hope will be published in the Daily Nation on Junior Sport Magazine every Monday and My Network Magazine every Friday for the duration of the campaign. Campaign runs from 5th March till 15th April 2021. Tusimame na watoto wa Kenya na Daily Nation.
NTV Jam Down is all about giving you good vibes and good energy, and that's why each and every Saturday we bring you guests from all over the world.
How you doing, Dimeja? Welcome on NTV Jam Down.
Yes, and of course Jam Down, yani Jam Vibes kwa mtaa, tunakuletea mazee uhondo kutoka majuu, yani Jamaica, Caribbean, mazee mpaka Nairobi 254.
Come Miss Katiwa,
roughest and toughest. NTV Jam Down, Jam Down KE. I'll see you.
This coming Saturday we have a deal. Don't go nowhere.
Deserve better, but baby, better makes me.
Wow, thank you for your time. How juicy.
Juicy. Juicy fruit.
Try Panadol Advance for relief from headaches, body aches, and fever. With Panadol's Optizorb formula, the tablet gently breaks down in the stomach, quickly absorbs, and starts providing pain relief in 15 minutes. For fast and effective pain relief that you can trust, try Panadol Advance.
Thank you for staying with your world on NTV this morning. We are talking about smoking in Kenya and other tobacco products and how, of course, we can reduce the consumption of these products in the country. And I have this morning with me Mr. John Mashari, is the Executive Director of the African Center for Corrective and Preventive Action, as well as Mr. Joel Gitali, the Chairman of the Kenya Tobacco Control Alliance, joining us virtually from Kakamega. And just before we went for the break, John, I was asking you about this because we have quite a number of policies on how to regulate tobacco. And we have two institutions. One, the National Authority Campaign on Drug Abuse, I believe, NACADA. And we also have a board dedicated to just dealing with the tobacco products. That's the Tobacco Control Board. But people just can't stop smoking.
Well, you realize that these institutions are there. Mm-hmm. And they are supposed actually to police public health in this country. But you realize that even Kenya, and especially on the side of tobacco, you can know that you've come through a very painful journey even to realize the current regulations. If I take you a little bit back, and if you comparatively with developed economy, like in United States of America, they started working on their regulation from early 50s, mm-hmm. and actually by 1965, they had even banned things like digital advertising. And UK 4 years down the line. We
only did it a while, just 4 years ago, I believe.
In US, 1965.
And in Kenya?
And UK 4 years down the line. Mm-hmm. And by around 1980, mm-hmm. these countries were set in terms of regulating tobacco consumption. Mm-hmm. What they've been doing is to progressively add value to the existing regulation mm-hmm. for the benefit of the public. In Kenya, the journey to realize what you have started in 1992. And 14 years down the line, that's when we were able to get Tobacco Control Act mm-hmm. in year 2007. Then after that, because of the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, the industry went to court and saying that there are many inconsistencies, mm-hmm. forcing now the government again to come up with tobacco control regulations, which came into effect in year 2014. Mm-hmm. Then after that, there have been a lot of litigation, especially from the industry, pushing the regulator not to act up till year 2019, when the High Court, the Supreme Court, the apex court in this country, made a decision to support the regulations and the act, mm-hmm. meaning that even the Tobacco Control Board as it is, it does not even have time to mm-hmm. implement the current regulation. Mm-hmm. If we ask ourselves that we have other regulators in other sectors and we see what they do, but you ask yourself the silent question, these these were supposed to police the public health, and especially on tobacco consumption and smoking, what can we say as public, or you yourself as Victor, can you say you've seen coming from the board?
And considering then that even I who don't smoke can be still affected and die from the effects of smoking the tobacco products,
yes.
Do you think then that the government is sort of neglecting its mandate in terms of protecting the entire population?
Absolutely, absolutely, because we cannot underestimate the risk and the hazard aspect of tobacco smoking, because there are health issues, there is also environmental issues, and also there are both social costs that comes when you're talking about sick people because of sickness that are related to tobacco consumption. So there are multitude of issues. Even when you talk about regulation right now, we know there's a lot that need to be done to ensure that we as a country attain the best standards, to ensure that as much as they may have few people who are smoking, but on average and generally, the public health aspect has been well taken care of.
Okay. And of course, we've been asking you to be part of this conversation and send us your feedback on social media. Let's see if we can get some of that feedback. Remember, on the question of the day, we had asked you, what should be done to prevent and reduce tobacco use among young people and children? That is in Kenya. Let's sample that part of that feedback that you've been sending us. If we are that ready. Yes, PKMKE says, why smoke and tell your children not to smoke? Lead by being a good example to them. Oh, thank you very much, PKM. Ruben Onyando, he says, we should not send our children to buy cigarettes for us. Some children start smoking just because they saw a person who is significant or role model to him or her smoke. Thank you, Ruben Onyando, of course, highlighting the issue of what the role that parents play in leading their children into smoking. Nyaga Silas, he says, it's parents who do much damage by sending their children to buy cigarettes for them and then even smoke in their house. How do you think the children will do? Good question, Nyaga. David Israeli says, in the early days, the children belonged to the society whereby any elder would discipline them whenever they misbehaved. Nowadays, if you try to correct the behavior in somebody's child, it becomes a police deal. Wow. Thank you very much, David Israel. And I just want to bring Mr. Gitali back to the conversation. From the feedback you had, Mr. Gitali, a number of course, our viewers actually believe that even parents play a role in terms of influencing their children and leading them into smoking.
That's very true. Parents and generally all the members of the society, because children tend to believe that what a parent or somebody who is respected in the society is doing is right. So when the parents consume tobacco products and the children are seeing, then they are actually attracted to that, because children learn more by observing what the elders are doing, and therefore they come into it because they feel that already is justified, it is something that has been approved by those that matter in the society.
Okay.
So we must always be careful. And then those, as we have said, that send their children to buy for them these things.
Yeah.
Also, rather, they make the children to feel that they should, the correct thing for somebody to do, especially a man, because the boys are mostly affected, is smoking. So if you don't smoke, then you are not a true man.
Okay.
So parents should be very careful what they do. Yeah, it's very, very sad.
And Mr. Gitali, on that very same point about the youth, then, because there's been a concern that the industry intentionally targets these young people. We've seen quite a number of products that are designed, the way they are designed to look like they are not harmful, but indeed, research shows that they are harmful. Some of them include, these electronic cigarettes that do not produce smoke. Some of them include the recently controversial issue of nicotine pouches. How much of a concern is it to you now that we're seeing the industry sort of intentionally targeting young people with this sort of attractive products?
Yeah, the industry is finding new ways of retaining their market and even expanding it. You know, in the past, it used to be a bit difficult for a young person to start smoking because of that choking, smoke and all that. But now the industry has come up with the products that are very smooth, with nice flavors, and yet very little, with the nicotine, highly addictive. So children are attracted to the flavors. They do not actually know what they are entering. In fact, even when we went about talking about things like shisha, we talk about the nicotine pouches. There are many who get shocks, including fellows. Even sometimes we visited these media houses, and those who are there, the interns, and even those working, say, "Hey, we didn't know this." So children are attracted. These are like traps. When you bring nicotine pouches, and they are very accessible, then they are very cheap, then children feel that this is the right thing to do. And that's why we have had a big problem, especially during this corona period, whereby schools and other learning institutions were closed down. And therefore these young people and the children were at home, and they went into consumption of lift. That's why you find a tobacco company saying that it made a profit of 42% over and above what it had made the previous year. And when you look at it, you find that it was all because children were at home, and then there were products to which the children had access, and they were consuming them. So these are things that after somebody has consumed them, they now become addicted. And once addicted, they'll go for anything that is close to them that can provide them with nicotine. Because that is now the thing that they crave. So it is a very bad thing. These things are not supposed to be there because they are used as traps to get children into smoking, and then they permanently remain there until old age, if they reach there, because most of them end up developing diseases and dying early.
Okay. Thank you. Let me come back to you, John, because then you think you have some sort of a solution that could help us sort of reduce this problem. And you're thinking of raising, you know, the minimum legal age of smoking from 18 to 21. Talk to us about that petition.
The rationale behind this, and as my friend Jola said, that the critical issue for someone in this life to continue throughout is getting that trap, getting addicted. And I can tell you, for Lile, there's a concept we say in business, Pareto rule, that you spend 80% of your time and energy and resources, take care of 20% of your clientele, who are in turn going to give you 80% of the business. Look at the tobacco industry. They spend all their effort to add the young people, where these young people can only generate 2% of the revenue, but out of these young people who are generating 2% of the revenue, we get 90% of new smokers. So it's a level of initiation. And that's where...
It's future revenue, sort of.
Yes, they have booked their revenue stream throughout. So that's where we are trying to ask ourselves. In Kenya, there's a minimum legal age set by in the regulation, both in Tobacco Control Act and Tobacco Control Regulations, and it says 18 years. But you ask yourself, in Kenya, that age of 18 years has been set through an act of parliament, I think 1974, where it said that after you attain 18 years, you become an adult, legally responsible for your actions and decisions. But there's a study that has informed the changes that we are seeing across the globe, because Kenya is not the first one to do that. Countries like US have done almost part of the entire country. Singapore, they have implemented this, because they have realized that the transition between adolescents to young adults, it is not necessarily based on the age. Because when you say in Kenya at 18 you're mature, it's not the reality. That's an age of majority that is legally set, but the age of maturity is totally different. Because even there's scientific evidence to prove that the development of a brain of a young person to cognitive ability go to 16 years, but not for decision making in terms of peer susceptibility, go up to age of 25. So when we are asking ourselves that we don't want these people to be cheated at very early age, not even necessarily through regulation, because even at age of 21, we are not saying that you're obtaining a license to start smoking. Our desire would be, even after getting age of 21, you can make better decision and say, ultimately, I don't even intend to smoke, because the global trend is we want a smoking-free environment across board.
Okay, so this thing is definitely in Parliament. This petition already in Parliament, right?
What is in Parliament is the intention for the regulation that you're working, because you realize that in Kenya now it's always good to have public participation consultation to ensure that the product that you are taking now to that higher level, it incorporates all the views of the majority of Kenyans. And so far we've gotten very good responses, and we believe that we have a solid case because it's out of public interest. Yes.
And briefly, just then, given the impact, the amount of people who smoke these products and the amount of people who are still at that age who consume these products, how much of a gain do you see? What difference would this make if it was passed?
There is a study in America which we try to pattern, because that study by Institute of Medicine in America, it has been like the anchor for all the countries that are turning to 21. Even our neighbor here, Uganda, they have just pressed it because they believe they're going to decrease premature deaths and illness related to that. This tobacco smoking issue have gynecology aspect that it will lead even preterm death, sudden death of infant. So when these people are making these decisions concerning the age which they should start smoking or not smoke, they should be conscious and link what they are doing to their future. So generally, we may not have specific statistics saying this, but what has been done globally, we believe the impact should be significant.
Okay. Mr. Gitali, let me just get your reaction to this petition by John Macharia and his team.
Yeah, I believe I'm still connected.
Yes, you are.
Am I?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. What Mr. Macharia is saying is good, but let me say something here.
Yeah.
That, we started this journey, like Kenya Tobacco Control Alliance brought together all those CSOs that were concerned with the tobacco control.
Okay.
And we started, we were registered in the year 2006. And we have been moving together. And because this is a very delicate thing, we are working with the Ministry of Health, especially the Division of Tobacco Control, and then the Tobacco Control Board. In fact, the Cabinet Secretary seconded 2 officers from his office to us to work together. So we are reading about these things. My friend is talking about in the papers. We don't. I'm happy that even Nation TV has made me to know Mr. Macharia because I've not known him. And we have been a bit worried that who are these talking about tobacco control so seriously, and yet we don't know them. Even the ministry, we talk to the ministry, they say they don't. But then these things are very. The only fear has been that. You have had even tobacco industry coming up and saying it has come up with vaccination against COVID-19. They were saying the industry can use every means. So anybody who is not known to us, even if he talks very good things about tobacco control, we say no. Let us know this person. We might be falling into a trap.
Okay.
The other thing that we also look at, we say, that we have got a lot of legislation in Kenya. And we are not going to legislate or to amend what we have not implemented. The Tobacco Control Act has been there for long. The regulations are there. FCTC is there. We are still yearning and crying for the implementation of the same. And therefore, changing what we have not even implemented does not make a lot of sense.
Okay.
We want what we have implemented fully. And then, apart from that kind of thing, we also know the damage that can be done to an act which the industry has always been yearning to open up for amendments, so that once it goes to Parliament, and knowing the environment in which you operate, there will be more than what we thought we were bringing. So this suggestion or the proposal to make amendments, it's good. But it might be an opening to a lot of damage because the industry is yearning for that. Recently, it even petitioned the minister, the cabinet secretary, that the Tobacco Control Act should be amended so as to accommodate the new products. And we all know when we talk of amendments, we have been thwarting the these kind of attempts, even by MPs, they come up with bills, we petition, they are dropped. So we still feel we want what we have to be implemented. Then we can now say, after the implementation, what else can we do?
Okay.
Otherwise, the suggestion is good, but not timely.
Okay. And so from where you sit then, what is the best way to move it forward?
The best way to move forward, as I've said, is to ensure that the policies we have, the laws we have are fully implemented by the government. So that the Tobacco Control Act is fully implemented, cigarettes are not sold, or other tobacco products are not sold to minors. Things like lift, which we know are very, very dangerous, also are subjected to proper, serious tobacco control laws in this country. Then we have cigarettes not being sold everywhere the way they are being sold everywhere to everybody. But we follow the law and sell them. No single sticks being sold, but we sell in packets as the law says. And we ensure that the tobacco industry adheres to whatever is required, like the payment, the taxes, because the industry is very good at evading and avoiding taxes.
Okay.
It is happening in other countries, and such allegations have been here in Kenya. Bribes, these things to do with bribery have been talked about here, and they compromise the system so that it doesn't work the way it is supposed to be working.
All right.
So there is much more to be done, what we have, than starting to talk about even about amendments, which sound so good. But then we ask ourselves, even if we struggle to amend, if we have not implemented what we have, is there any need of bringing other legislation? It might not really make a lot of sense.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let me just come back to you, Mr. Macharia, then, because there are those who, first of all, worry that this is a sector that is already overtaxed and overregulated. And there are those who are also worried that, you know, yes, increasing the age limit, minimum age from 18 to 21 is good, but it's sort of like postponing the problem.
Well, I would say in terms of taxation and levy to government, we cannot really underestimate. And I know most of the industry, and especially the major players, they give more than 20 billion direct revenue to the government. And you see, that's why I'm saying that we get our priorities not light, because it's always said that, you know, you cannot kill the goose that lays golden eggs. So the government and its intention toward regulating this sector that's giving a lot of money, it is it cannot be that fast, because of also the issue of economic dislocation. What will happen that if we do this much and then it destabilizes the issue of employment and those people who are involved in the whole value chain, that economic dislocation should always be secondary. Then when you talk about...
Yes, because that would be my concern. Then are we saying that, you know, this 10,000 jobs created in this industry or whatever number it is also kind of equates or cancels off with, you know, the number of deaths we see every year? You
see, like in Kenya, we spent close to over 600 billion. Like health ministry takes over 20% of our national cake. When you talk about 3 trillion, you're talking about 600 billion. If we ask ourselves, we may not have the actual statistics, but the amount that goes to take care of those health-related sicknesses, cost of tobacco smoking, it far outweigh what we receive as a country from the revenue. However, I want to say this. And I collect an impression that my colleague is saying, Jel, because we are on the same side. And for us, probably we have not interacted with them, but we have enlisted a number of stakeholders that we are engaging this cause. Simply because for them, they have been purely there on tobacco industry, I mean, on regulation of tobacco industry. For us as SCPPA, our mandate is wider than that, but on any issue, especially on environment, health, and technology, that we feel we can activate an issue and bring a positive impact to the public, we are going to do that. And we have enlisted them. We are going to enjoin them. We are going to enjoy, like now he's talking about enforcement. When they are doing the tobacco control, I'm not certain how they engage the enforcement agency, and that's the kind of stakeholder that we need to ensure that even the regulation that we have and progressive that we are going to amend, we bring on board all the stakeholders, including even judiciary. So for us, we are together with those stakeholders, and those public forums, public participation, and they are already enlisted, and we're going to lower them. You know, we have been slowed down because of the COVID effect. But even the Tobacco Alliance, they are part of this broad agenda, and that's why I said what you have given there at the Parliament is intention. But what we are going to work with the executive members for health, public health officers at county level. We are going to bring on board institutional learning. We are going to bring the judiciary in the mix, law enforcement agency, everybody, to ensure that you appreciate what you are regulating.
Okay. Yeah. So in 30 seconds in your closing remarks, you're saying you're going to stay in the fight.
Pardon?
You're going to stay in the fight, this fight.
Yes. That one for Lille, we are not moving away from it. I know the industry always have hostile. It's always hostile against all regulation, and for good reason, for commercial interest. But for us, I think the way we have structured this discourse, and I think you have seen it along the way, we are going to remain into it. At the end of the day, if it is won, it's the Kenya public win, the society win, our families win. Yeah, so for us, our intention is very clear, and we're going to remain on the course.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Gitali, then in your closing remarks, in just 20 seconds, you have said there are already enough policies, and the issue is implementing these policies that are there to fulfillment. How do we go about implementing these policies that are already there, even before we think about, you know, amending them? In 30 seconds.
Yeah, all the stakeholders should come together and ensure that whatever we have is actually working. And we've tried this. We are already working with the universities. We are working with even the Ministry of the Interior and the Ministry of Health and other players. And we are saying that the government, especially the county governments, must come up strongly. That's why we have also brought in the Council of Governors, so that this work can go on properly at every level with all the stakeholders included. And the government, as my friend had said, should really focus on the health of Kenyans so that everything else becomes subordinate. We are doing with the COVID, that we must look at what is supposed to be done. We don't look at trade and therefore give in to the demands by the tobacco industry. We look at the health of Kenyans and let us protect our children, especially from these things that are coming, the emerging products, which these people are giving all sorts of good names and the descriptions. Let us protect children.
All right.
Thank you.
Many thanks, Mr. Joel Gitali is the chairman of the Kenya Tobacco Control Alliance. Kate has spoken very passionately about the issue of protecting young children from harmful tobacco substances, of course, and Mr. John Macharia, the executive director of the Africa Center for Corrective and Preventive Action. Just before we go, let's see some part of the feedback that you've been sending us on the same issue we've been talking about. Yes, Mwoki Ndangili says a lot needs to be done. It's not a one-day event. Start by educating them on the adverse effects of smoking. Thank you, Mwoki. We have Geoffrey Waremba. He says, instilling morals in our society at large. We advertise this stuff everywhere. The so-called role models use them in every corner. Thank you, Geoffrey. All right, and I think that is all we could accommodate for now because we have really run out of time. We have been talking about the issue of smoking in Kenya, how much of a problem it is, and how we can protect the young ones and the future generations from the harmful impact of tobacco substances. My name is Victor Kiprop. Of course, I've thoroughly enjoyed, driving this conversation for the last 1 hour. And of course, this last hour about smoking. We'll see you again next Monday. Keep watching.